Samsung Electronics is a division of the South Korean multinational conglomerate Samsung Group and is principally engaged in the manufacture and marketing of consumer electronic products. On April the 1st, 2012, it merged with Samsung LED and spun off its LCD business. Samsung Electronics has a market cap of $192 billion US. Let's start with you, Tshepo. This is the one that you love.
Yeah, I'm well and truly a Samsung man. Interesting business. I mean, if you go back to when it started in the 1930s, it started as a fish exporting business. And if you go just 15 years ago...
Did I hear correctly?
You heard me
fish
right.
Exporting business.
That's what they did. They looked at fish back in the day. And just 15 years ago...
The world is full of surprises.
It is. And just 15 years ago, Samsung probably produced cheap junk, if you can call it that. Today, you think Samsung, you think premium. And that just talks to a business that's constantly evolving itself. If you look at their best-selling products, much like Apple now, 5 years ago they didn't exist. So again, the business continuously developing itself, changing itself, and it comes through in terms of operational performance and quite fortunately in terms of stock market performance as well.
Paul, you're looking at the graph and you're frowning ever so darkly there.
Well, look, this is the Korean listed entity that you see there on the graph chart. That's where you have to buy them, or I think they are traded secondarily. There's obviously some corporate restructuring going on there, but there are two things that worry me about Samsung. One is the nature of the electronics entity within the larger conglomerate, because it's a little bit like the Anglo-American of Korea. It's done the best, and it's one of those kaibols and various intercompany loans and so on. So that I want clarified. The second issue is that there's no question that their manufacturing capabilities are unrivaled, because we know that they're even selling some of the components that go into the Apple products. But the key question for me is the device platform secure insofar as they basically use the freeware Google Android platform? And we know that Google is trying to get into the phone business by having bought that division of Motorola. So is there a risk to Samsung of some kind of relationship breakdown which results in a loss of the ability to use or license the Android product?
Who are you asking these questions? Me. Tshepo. I just checking, because your eye line was directly to me and I was wondering whether I was on the wrong side of the fence here.
I think the important consideration when you're looking at Samsung is, I think the temptation is just to look at the smartphones and the tablet space, and we'll touch on those just now. The broader group is bigger than that. 60% of revenue comes from elsewhere. And elsewhere they do pretty well. So they're number one in terms of smart TVs, number one in terms of smart fridges, number one in terms of smart.
In terms of Tshepo's devices,
all of that stuff is in this entity, right?
Not all of that stuff is in this entity.
Here. Okay,
did you miss that part of the group?
Well, you know, that's the thing with Samsung. Like you were reading in your introduction, the LCD thing was in, and then the LED
smart
was out.
TVs come with the program.
Fridge division. I mean, seriously.
Coupled with that, they're number one smartphone producer, so they actually sell more smartphones than anyone in the world. Apple has the number one sales in terms of product, but overall, you got, I think, 27 number ones in this group, and a lot of the concerns they've been able to address over time.
Hot or not on Samsung, Paul?
Look, I love the industry, and the fact that it's traded in Korea and all that is a bit of an issue. So for retail customers, you know, we operate out of New York, so there's a question of whether the ADC
in London as well?
So it's listed in London and listed in Korea, right? Yep. So you can access it in both markets. I'd like to say yes.
You really dragging out this hot or not?
Too confusing.
Not hot. And Tshepo?
Earlier you asked between value and growth. Samsung gives you both. Great growth at a PE of 10. So I'm very, very happy. Very hot for me on Samsung.
I'm waiting to see where we get to on the trade of the day, given that you both have such diverse investment philosophies.